Hey kids, I have a new word of the day. It's called trend slop. And if you've never heard of me before, hi, I'm Kimberly Inez Mays, and I'd like to talk about trend slop. So let's get into it. Actually, I talk about AI stuff too, but today I'm talking about trend slop. And what is trend slop? Well, it's the amalgamation of AI strategies that you may encounter when you ask AI for a strategy, whether you're working on a new program, product, or marketing plan, whatever the case may be. When you say, give me a strategy, it's going to give you strategies from everywhere because it has mass amount of data. And why I found this concept so intriguing was because I think this is how a lot of people use AI. It's like a microwave. You put it in, you get something out, and what you get out is edible, right? It looks good. It has plans, it has bullet points. It's great. It's a nice plan. There's nothing wrong with the plan except it doesn't fit. It's like you go to a store and it's one size fits all dress. And it's a nice dress, nothing wrong with the dress or nothing wrong with the suit, but it doesn't fit you. And you don't feel comfortable wearing it, meaning that you can't execute the plan because it's not feasible for you. And there are a couple of reasons for this. Number one, you haven't given it enough context. And what I mean by that is you have not given it enough information about you to know who you are, what your organization is, what your company is, who your clients are. And this is why I do so much content around context and providing context, and why I take so long to think about the context I put into these tools is because I get great outputs when I do that. And then number two is that you never specify what you want the output to look like. And when you say, give me a strategy, it's like, okay, well, here's a strategy. Give me a meal, give me a suit. You never said, okay, well, what do you want the dress to look like? What do you want the suit to look like? What do you want the meal to taste like? Do you want it to be 2 courses, 3 courses, right? So when you ask for something and you don't specify what it should look like and then you get it, you may try to apply it, you may try to tweak it, but it's going to have biases, it's going to have what it wants to give you because that is the information and the source from which it is pulling. So I am going to give you some information so you can mitigate against trend slop. I'm going to do a demo and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to share my screen. So we're going to try a few prompts. We're going to try a prompt that many of you may have tried, and I'm not picking on you, but we're going to try a prompt. This is a general prompt that's going to give us something absolutely delicious and tasty, right? We're going to get a nice strategy out of it, but it's going to be trend slop. And let me see where the idea came from, because I do want to give credit to the organization that came up with the term. Because I was doing some research and I was like, "Ooh, that's juicy," and I really like the idea. And I'm still looking it up, but it's really useful because I have done it before. I've looked at marketing plans, I've looked at outputs before, and I'm just like, I don't really love this. I'm not really why I'm not feeling this too much. And I realized that yes, it's from Harvard Business Review, March 2026. Researchers asked leading LLMs for strategic advice and found that they consistently generated advice aligned with modern marginal buzzwords. And you know how much I hate buzzwords, right? I I talk about bro marketing all the time, and if you're a man, don't feel triggered. Bro marketing also applies to women as well. But that whole bro oligarchy, bro coded marketing of unlock, unleash, 10x. I hate all that crap, right? But we get these buzzwords that sound smart. So when we get it back from an LLM output, we're like, wow, this sounds amazing, and it's all pure trash. So let's kind of like loop in the trend slop so we get some great outputs that actually work for us. All right. So generic input, generic output, dressed up and fancy confident language. Thank you, Harvard Business Review. I am going to link to you so that people know that you've come up with the term and not me. So let's talk about some trend slop, right? Let's get into it. I am going to kindly share my screen so that you can see what it does. All right. So look over there. because I'm looking over there too. So right now I have handy dandy Claude up. Claude and me, we've been in a really good relationship lately, so I'm going to use Claude. But you don't have to use Claude. Whenever I demo something, people are like, oh, well, do I need to use Claude now? And I'm like, no, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, you can use whatever you want. Honestly, I don't care, because I'm platform agnostic, but I am using Claude. Follow along and the fancy LLM of your choosing. I don't care. But let's produce some trend slops. So I have my handy dandy prompts ready. So I am a business coach. Give me a content and growth strategy for my coaching practice for Q2. Actually, that's already gone. So where are we in Q2? Let's do Q3 because we're in Q2. 2026, right? This is the worst prompt I can ever imagine. If you're still doing this, then I question. So I am a business coach. This is zero context, but hopefully you're doing a little bit better than this. But let's see, let's get some trend slop. Even if your prompts are a little bit better than this, prompt engineering does not a good strategy make, just prompt engineering on its own. But let's try it with this crappy prompt, shall we? So I'm using Sonnet, which is kind of like their mid-tier model. It's smart, but it's not as smart as Opus, but it uses fewer tokens, which is a little cheaper than me, cheaper than Opus, but more expensive than Haiku. Okay, so it is smart enough to ask you some questions. So it's saying, okay, you gave me nothing, girl. To make the strategy actually useful for your practice, I need to understand a bit more about where you're at. Okay, so this thing is just like, girl, you've given me nothing. So let's just say small business owners, I want to launch a group program and I'm active on LinkedIn. Okay. I love the fact that it did that. I think I'll try it again in another model to see if it gives me that same pushback. I'll try it again in Haiku maybe to see if it gives me some pushback. But I love that it gave me that pushback. And then this is a thinking model as well, so you can kind of see the thought, the chain of thought. If you just press that, I'll do some more content on the thought pattern. But it's like great context, not really. But let's build a Q3 content strategy, growth, blah blah blah. It's saying that. So it's designing. So here is your Q3 strategy, building your roadmap. So I really didn't tell it anything. I just said, small business owners, I'm looking to launch a group program or course, and I'm active on LinkedIn. Is that enough context? No, that is horrible context, but whatever, it's going. So we're going to give it a little bit of time. It's building out something very pretty, by the way. This looks really pretty. So you may take this and be like, wow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. And it is fantastic. It looks great, right? It's saying phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, building out a cohort of followers on LinkedIn. Here's your posting strategy. Here's a live training. Here's behind the scenes coaching moments. LinkedIn is your primary engine, email list as your conversion layer, one live event as your conversion moment, strategic DMs, cold outreach, lead magnet, launch phases. Okay, I should have used a cheaper, faster model because I'm demoing. And when I demo, I tend to be a little impatient. That is just a New Yorker in me. But you can see that you can take this at face value and be like, yeah, this is fantastic. But there are a couple of trend slop things in here, such as your conversion layer, conversion moment. So if you're not thinking, okay, well, what are you trying to really do and where are you trying to convert? And what is your top of funnel brand awareness? I know I don't talk about funnels that much anymore, but how are you making people aware and how are you really trying to get in front of them? I think, and what is your capacity to do email sequences? Do you even have an email marketing program? Do you have capacity to do a live training? Things like that. It may not even work for you, but this is actually not bad, considering that the prompting in the context was garbage, but this is not bad. But you can see that it says LinkedIn alone won't close a sale. And then it's saying founding member price. And then it says group programs for business coaching typically range from blah, blah, blah. So it's giving you pricing, it's giving you all this, but it doesn't know you. It doesn't have that context, right? So it's like, would you like to go deeper on any part, pricing the program, writing your lead magnet? All right, so this is a little bit too in the weeds for like what I want to demo with. But yeah, this is actually forcing information out of you, which is great. Not too much trend slop with Claude Sonnet, which is good to see. Of course, when you demo anything, you always get to see some surprising results. I know in ChatGPT, I guess I can do ChatGPT for free. Let me do that really fast. Let me just try that. Or actually, yeah, let me do ChatGPT. I'm gonna test some models out. I'm gonna just do a little bit of testing because we gotta test some stuff out. So this is the free ChatGPT account. So let's see. Generic content plan will now produce meaningful growth. Okay, so it is pushing back. The outline below assumes the small. Okay, so this one definitely pushed back, which is really, really cool. The outline below assumes a small coaching practice. Okay, so the trend slop is not happening, which is great. So it's giving you some stuff, but it's not asking you any questions. It's just saying, yeah, it's not really going to do anything for you, but it's giving you too much. It's not pushing back on you. It's like, if you want a sharper version, please specify your niche, audience size, pricing, and then it can be tightened. So let's say niche. Let's do business owners over 50, audience size 3,000, email list, primary offer. Let's say I do a 5K group program. So let's see if it gives me anything. So the good news is that, well, it is giving some buzzwords: high trust, authority driven conversion. That's a little bit bro coded. So it's like the audience does not respond to volume; it responds to credibility, relevance, and low friction decision paths. Again, yes, yes, true. But you also do need the volume as well. You need a little bit of both. The market does not buy coaching; they're buying stability, relevance. Okay, so that's cool. But it doesn't really, I really didn't say anything. I said business owners over 50. I didn't say, what their pain points are. I didn't give it any psychographic information. I didn't give it any like what kind of business does my audience have. It will, let me see if there's any follow-up information. So the next step would be 10 high converting posts, a full workshop outline. So, okay, so it's not going deeper into my audience. So it's giving some trend slop a little bit. It's a strategic constraint. Your growth will not come from. So this is more trend sloppy than in Claude was, but it's saying better positioning, stronger proof, direct conversations. Okay, that's not trend slop, but there are like some other call to close rate, things like that. And I'm not saying that these words or these terms are bad. I'm just saying, given the lack of context, right? When you get the stuff, it's like, okay, well, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need, without kind of doing the deeper dive. So begin outreach conversations, consistent email cadence. What does that look like? It doesn't say it doesn't give you the cadence at all, really, for April. Client amplification, that's definitely bro coded. Um, yeah, authority borrowing, I guess that's okay. But yeah, this is a little less good than Claude. So all right, so we kind of see a little bit of the trend slop. Some of the notes that I've taken to is like, leverage your unique value proposition, show up consistently, build authentic relationships, things like that are they sound great on paper, but in execution, it falls flat. So here is one of the things that Harvard found: AI models are trained on so much business content that they absorb the language of strategy without the substance of it. So when I talk about context engineering, I talk about, really making sure that it has that substance to give you back something meaningful. And you might even want to say, explain it to me like I am, you know, a 10th grade level or something like that. So like it's all pattern matching to whatever sounds nice, right? It doesn't have a brain. There's no cognition. It's just saying, okay, well, there's a pattern. This is what advice sounds like, and here is the next token, the next sequence of a word or piece of word that follows, right? That's how the models work. So the result is confident, fluent, but it could be interchangeable. So I really gave this nothing to work with. So it's if you're using this as a thought engine just to say, okay, well, I'm going to spit out some strategy and then we're going to do this. And not just to write, you might be getting something that's just purely trend slop. So I am going to show you some of the fixes. And I'm going to keep it in this model just because I think that this gives me a little bit more to work with. I think Claude is just a little too smart, and plus I don't want to burn up my tokens because I'm going to use Opus for something else in a few hours. So I don't want to burn up my tokens. But let's say that okay, we are using a product that will allow us to create that context, right? And this could be Notebook LM, which I might do another recording with Notebook LM, open Notebook LM, and give it like business plans. I might give it like the client avatar. I might give it a bunch of other stuff. So Notebook LM has all of my stuff. And then I can communicate with Notebook LM and I can ask some of these questions. So keep in mind that this is not exactly how I would work, but this works for this demo. And so let's look at this prompt. I am a business coach specializing in executive women who are being passed over for promotions despite outperforming their peers. My clients typically earn this much, have this experience, and their core problem is they're told to be more visible. My contrarian position is that visibility advice is usually wrong for high performing women because it was designed for a different archetype. Given this, I'm going to put Q3 strategy. So I'm talking about my ideal client. I'm talking about their pain points, their psychographic, what's keeping them up at night, what do I help them with. So you can automatically see that because this is just a prompt, it's automatically way better than what I had previously gave it. Although I wouldn't do it this way, but if you're going to do it, if you're going to do it, like you can try something like this. If you're not going to do it my way, you can do it this way. So this is actually not bad. So let's run it and see what it says. So it's saying a generic post more on LinkedIn will not differentiate you in its niche. Your audience already heard diluted visibility advice and ignored it. So it's a little bit better because visibility is not performance, it's political positioning. So it knows this because I told it to. I gave it that context. And so here's my core content pillars. And of course, you would always read this, vet against it, and make sure that is actually correct to you and your situation. So I said, I asked for a content strategy, but I wouldn't leave it at this. I wouldn't just say, okay, well, here's a strategy, just from one prompt. But it is giving everything. It's like if you want, I can turn this into a 30-day posting calendar with specific hooks. So I would not zero shot this or one shot this. I would actually do a little bit more. Um, but this is not horrible, but this is not great either. We can do a lot better than this. Um, it's the same tool, same model, completely different output. But I didn't just ask for strategy. I gave a context, a specific person, contrarian position, a clear enemy. You know, so let's do some. Let's kind of dig into a little bit deeper, and then one thing that I like to do is I'm going to use the same chat is one prompt alone is not a strategy make. I know that this recording is going a little bit longer, sorry, but I wanted to show the power of a single prompt, how it could just change stuff. But I hate this method. I really don't advocate for this. So let's do something else. So let's say before we do any strategy work together, I need you to understand who I am, not my bio, but how I think. And so now I will give it more context. And then what I'm asking, not for the strategy, but can you reflect back what you've heard so I know you've got it, right? So checking back for understanding. So I'm not going to read all this, but let's say I'm working on this. I would read it back to make sure, right? So I would read it back like, yeah, sure, fine. So that's one thing. That's the first thing. So notice I didn't paste my bio. I told her how I think. I asked to reflect back. And now I'm going to talk about my client. Here's who I actually serve. I am going to paste that. Okay. So, what do you know about this person that I might be overlooking? Several things are likely true about her that are easy to miss because they sit under the surface of she's overwhelmed. And I would read this and make sure that this is correct, right? Her fear is not about money, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read what it's outputting, but okay, I'm out of messages, blah, blah, blah. Fine. I'm using the free version just because I know a lot of people are using the free versions of the tools that they're using, so that's why I'm using the free version. If you want to know, but I do pay for I do pay for my own models. So some non-negotiables too. So let's see. Responses will use a less powerful model. That's fine. I don't care. So what I'm doing now, and I'm going to share all of this content with you after this recording, but the non-negotiables, the boundaries, right? Because we just don't want any strategy to spit out anything, right? Remember the first recording that we had, or the first, not recording, the first output that we had, it said, oh, create a live training and create an email sequence and a cadence. It assumed that we could do things that maybe we couldn't do. And then maybe it assumed that we would recommend or have certain type of post that we wouldn't do. So here are my non-negotiables, things that I would do. And I need you to never suggest them. Don't recommend that my clients go viral as a strategy. Don't use urgency tactics or artificial scarcity. I don't believe in posting every day as a growth strategy. I will never position myself who makes 10K in 30 days. If you catch yourself suggesting something that bumps against these flags, or bumps against these flags before I say it, so it's understood. Okay. So now it knows like what not to recommend to me, right? So this is where most people skip ahead. They forget to tell AI what their lanes are, and then they wonder why the output feels generic and feels just like they are just like everybody else. So let's talk about the actual voice. So let's paste that. So here's something I wrote that landed really well with my audience. So like, okay, I prepared these prompts in advance, so you can paste a real email post or workshop description that you've written. So because I didn't do it, you know, because it's a demo, I didn't do it, but it's just like you can give it that, or if you're using Notebook LM, if you're using a Claude project, or even like a ChatGPT project, or whatever project, wherever like software you want to use, make sure that it has some examples. Show, don't tell. And then also, I also produce a lot of artifacts too that are contextual for some of the things that I do in business and for my speaking. I also have like SWOT analysis. I also have gap analysis and things like that. So I already have that front loaded in my context, so it kind of knows who I am already. But for this fictional examples, paste 2 to 3 examples of trend slop content, growth hacking language, hustle cultures, generic 6-figure promises example. So let's just say like we're not gonna avoid 10x your business. Let's just say avoid 10x your business and other bro coded terms. So we're going to say, okay. So we're not going to say 10x explosive growth, scale fast, skyrocket revenue, and we're going to replace specificity. We're going to replace all that stuff, right? I'm going to avoid abstract amplification language, and we're going to anchor outcomes and constraints, clarity, and stage. Okay, so if that's not who you are, tell it. Tell it like, okay, I never use these terms. And then we want to say, what are our delivery preferences? How do we want stuff returned back to us, right? So when you give me strategy, here's what I want. I want to lead with one thing, not a list of 10. Tell me assumptions. If something's a trend, tell me it's a trend and tell me where it came from. I want to understand the why and not the what. So don't just say, well, you need to write a 10 email sequence because everybody else is doing it and that's just the way it goes and that's the way everybody else is doing it. No, like, why should I do it for my business? And keep it under 300 words unless I ask for more. It says understood, future strategies will follow the structure. Then here's some blind spots. Based on everything I shared with you, what am I overlooking? What assumptions are made? Where are my own biases limiting my strategy? So it might be over indexing on correcting bad advice, an underbuilding on a distinct positive model of what replaces it. Right now, your positioning is strong, but less explicit on the operating system, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter because this is a fictional example, so I'm not going to read all of this. But it's giving me some blind spots. It's giving me some things to overlook. And then I only have like a few more prompts left, but you can kind of see me working through this. And I know that you're just like, oh, Kim, this is taking so long. Yes, if you're creating a strategy, it should take a long time. It should take more than 5 minutes, right? I've been talking for maybe I'm looking at the timer for like about maybe 25 minutes or so. So it should take longer than a half hour. If you're saying I can't sit down for 45 minutes to come up with a strategy for my new program project, product, or whatever have you, then I have some questions for you. So, you want to make sure that you take your time to read the outputs, read where it's getting its research. Of course, I'm using a really cheap and free model. So it's not going to give me great outputs, but that's the point because I'm doing a demo. I don't have time to sit and watch it think. But if I was doing this for reals, I would have all my context front loaded. I would be using more of a thinking reasoning model. I would be vetting the chain of thought. I would be looking at sources. I would be doing a lot more than what I'm doing on screen right now. But I just want to show you that I am taking these steps because it says what data or research exists. And so right now it's not going to give me any links because I don't know what the free version of ChatGPT is using. I haven't used it in a minute, but it's giving me some research. Not important because it's a demo. And then it's like, okay, now give me the strategy. Give me the Q3 strategy. So here is the grand finale, right? And we should get something better. Okay. So we said under 300 words. I think this is about under 300 words. So we get a pretty good strategy. Maybe if we want it to be longer, give me a week by week strategy for the whole. Because sometimes less is more, but for demo purposes, you're like, wow, that wasn't a lot of content. But you know, it depends on what you want. So give me a week by week for strategy for the whole quarter, including outputs and social posts. Because it did offer to create a calendar too. So here's like week by week diagnosis, reset, decision overload, constraint. So we can really look at this and make sure that it um, really works for our client. And because this is a demo and this is not my business, this is kind of a dummy data business with a lower model. I'm not going to vet this output because why do I need to? It's a demo. So I have a framework for doing this sort of stuff. I do it all the time. So the demo data is not important, right? So if you were reading the content and the outputs on the screen, don't really worry about that. That is not the point. The point is the trend slop. The point is you don't want to be impressed by empty buzzwords. You don't want to be impressed by just things that sound great but don't have substance for what you need to accomplish. You want to make sure that it works for you. All right. So I've been talking for a really long time and I want to have I want to have a snack. So I'm going to go have a snack. But it's been a pleasure. And if you like this content, please like and share because sharing is caring. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. So yeah, I'll be back soon with some more spicy takes on AI strategy for nonprofits and service-based businesses. So yeah, see you later and look out for that link or downloadable or whatever. Okay, video's over. Bye.